Hey everyone, and welcome to Inessence Movement. I'm your host, Paresh Nama, and today I have something a little different for you. As you know, I started the show so I can introduce you to the people that motivate and inspire me, because I know success leaves clues, and I can undoubtedly say no one has motivated and or inspired me more than this man here. And I've picked up many clues from him. And with those clues, we can ask ourselves better questions and reflect so we can find out who we are in essence. Today on the show, I have someone who would have been episode number 1. However, due to COVID, it's not possible as he lives in Melbourne. And I hope to have him here in the chair next to me very soon. So I'm going to hold off on my big introduction till then. But what I will say is that he is a friend. He is a teacher. He is my older brother. Much older brother, a mentor, and wholeheartedly, I can say, in every sense of the word, my very first guru. He is Darren Pereira. Darren, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks, Paresh. What an introduction. I'm feeling quite honored there and a bit humbled. Don't know what to say. First time ever I've been lost for words.
And I've been knowing you for so many years, so I know for sure that it's very rare to catch you without many words to say.
Let's hope I've got something to say today.
So Darren, you've been coming to New Zealand for how many years now?
Look, it could be close to maybe 20 years.
20 years. So
Yep.
I think traveling to New Zealand for the past 20 years, I think you've met a lot of people here in our small family of 5 million. But for those 5 people out there who don't know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Oh, as you know, my name's Darren Pereira. I was an accountant. My father said to me, "Dad and son, you can do anything you want as long as you're a doctor, lawyer, and accountant." And I ended up becoming that. I ended up working at KPMG, which is one of the big firms in the world, and became a pretty big failure. And then that really triggered me to think about what I wanted to do in my life. And so I got very into personal and spiritual development, which was my savior. And then having learned that knowledge, I really became inspired after watching a few speakers and said, I want to be just like that person on the stage. And I pursued that. I started working for an organization called Leadership Management International, which was a corporate training organization. Worked there for a couple of years and then started my own business. And so now I do coaching, one-on-one coaching. I do corporate training, but most of my work is doing seminars, mainly in schools, but now branching right out to the public and the world.
That's amazing. How many people have you spoken to around the world?
Approximately 500,000 people now.
Wow, that's incredible. So look, Darren, when we spoke yesterday, or after we spoke yesterday, I really started to think, and I thought it's a really interesting time of year to be having this conversation. As little as 5 years ago, the stats came out that 80% of people didn't stick to their New Year's resolutions. And more recently, only 45% of people are even setting New Year's resolutions, and only 8% of that are achieving or reaching their New Year's resolutions. There's a staggering 92% of people who are either not sticking to or failing at their New Year's resolution. So, and from being a stat, one of those stats for many years, I can really say from personal suffering that it's hard, and it's hard, especially now at this time of year. January's over. We sort of ride the high of the new year, new me sort of thing, and then it sort of starts to drop off. So I guess the first place to start is, what are your thoughts on New Year's resolutions? Do you set them? And yeah.
Well, look, I am a fan of New Year's resolutions, and I do set them. I'm not sure if it's good for everybody, and I suppose for me, New Year's resolutions are important because it gives me a chance to reset, gives me a chance to recalibrate. You've had a year, you've worked pretty hard, and you think, okay, let's start again. What am I really focused on? What's most important to me? What do I want to achieve this year?
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's very important to do. It works well for me. And so, yeah, I do set them. I think it's good, but you're right. Most people just sort of set them. and why they don't. I'm going to predict that you're going to ask me, why do you think people don't achieve their New Year's resolutions? Is that fair to say?
That is absolutely fair to say.
Okay, so I think there's a few reasons, and I don't know if it's an exhaustive list, but certainly from my perspective, I think one is intention. I think if you really want something and it's your very clear intention, and you're very clear about what you want, I think you've got a much higher chance of achieving or moving or gaining momentum on your goals or goal if you have a really clear intention.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes people, they set their New Year's resolutions because everybody else is seeing them. That's not a good reason to set New Year's resolutions. Or they're setting the New Year's resolutions because they're feeling guilty. Like, oh, I'm overweight, so I should have a New Year's resolution to lose weight, right? And that's probably not a good way either, right? Because when guilt comes in, it's a very toxic sort of emotion, and then it's not really a positive reason why you're doing it. So I think that, guilt is one thing that's not so good. And I think, just following what everyone else is doing is not a good reason. I think it needs to come internally, intrinsically. It's like, this is what I really want.
Yeah.
And I think really most importantly, any goal, forget New Year's resolutions, they need to come from alignment. It's not what I should do. It should be in line with who I am.
Mm.
Yeah. And when these goals are in line with your values, and when I say the word value, I mean what's most important to me. Value comes from the word valuable, right? So it's valuable, it's precious. So in other words, it's foundational to who you are. If you take away that value from you, like for me, personal growth is a huge value. If you take that away from my life, I will crumble. I will not be the person who I am.
Yeah.
So if your goals are in line with your values, if it's coming from a clear intention, not from guilt or following the crowd, it's in line with who you are as a person, your nature, I think you've got, you're tripling or quadrupling your chance of achieving your goals.
So I think you've roughly touched on it, but I guess the obvious next question is how should people be setting their New Year's resolutions? You talked about intent. You've talked about that. It should be you need to become that type of person. How should people be setting their New Year's resolutions or any goal for that matter of fact?
So, I think a really important thing is to actually write it down.
Yeah.
Okay. People say, look, I know what it is. But you'll be surprised that when you write it down, you do what's called crystallizing your thoughts. Now, crystallization is just meaning that it's a fancy word for saying you're making your goal visual. You're clearly seeing it, crystal clear, crystallizing your goal. So when you write it down, if you just say, oh, I want to lose weight, for example, you have a vague image of that. But if you write your goal maybe as part process and part end result, so I will spend 15 minutes 3 times a week doing yoga and or walking, for example, to lose 1 kilo a month for the next 12 months, then what's happening is you've got a really clear image. You're walking, you're doing yoga, right? You're doing it 15 minutes. You might be saying 15 minutes in the morning, at 9 o'clock, even if you're going to get that clear, or 7 o'clock in the morning. And then, how much weight you want to lose, etc. Then you can really visualize it and see it. So writing it down forces you to crystallize your thinking. It can't be vague. Yeah. So that would be one thing that I would suggest a person does. I think the next thing you should do is, I think, again, I said, like, it should be in line with your nature and what's important to you and what your values are. That'll make a huge difference. Often when I do my goal setting process, I actually talk about what are the benefits to be gained and the losses that you will, what will happen in a negative sense if you don't achieve your goal.
Yeah.
That's for motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's aligned to you and it's in line with your values, then motivation will not be an issue. Because if it's part of who you are, your nature, etc., you naturally do it. You don't, like for me, I don't need to be motivated to speak. No one needs to motivate me to advise someone. It just happens naturally. So I do it. So if it's not in line with your thing, then you should probably put, the benefits to be gain or losses if you don't achieve it, which will be the heaven and the hell, right? Which will either push you or pull you towards your goal. But if you're doing that, I think it's probably a goal that you're really going to be struggling with, and it's difficult, and it's going to go through the motions, and it'll be hard to stick with it. But one thing that I definitely recommend, which I think is really important, is thinking about what are the obstacles in your way to achieving your goal. Most people don't think about this. They might think about the end result. They might even get really sophisticated and write process type goals and dates and times because they've read some book or whatever it might be. But identifying the obstacles that might come in your way. So saying, I'm going to, for example, exercise 30 minutes a day every day. Think about that for a moment. Is every day realistic? When are you going to do it? Oh, I have kids in the morning, 7 o'clock. That's when I'm making breakfast for the kids. There's an obstacle there. So maybe I need to think about what's the solution to that obstacle before I even start. That kills most people, most dreams, most goals instantly, because as soon as the obstacle comes up, they say it's too what?
Hard.
Too hard, right? And so if you think about it beforehand, and you think about the solution beforehand, then you're setting yourself up for probably 80% more success than if you didn't. And the only other thing I will probably add to it is maybe adding some affirmations, some positive, encouraging statements that you say to yourself every day in every way. I'm getting better and better. I'm highly energized and full of life, or something like that, which then really sort of supports what you're trying to achieve.
Talk to me about the power, the real power of affirmations, and where you learned that and what it's done for you.
I think the first time I heard about affirmations was by a lady named Louise Hay, and the book is called You Can Heal Your Life. And I believe, and it's so long ago now, it must have been, man, how old am I now? 47. Stop it. You don't think I'm that old? Paresh.
You don't look a day over 50, so you're okay.
Thanks. Wow. Can we just end this now? Or what? I mean, this is the guy asked me for a favor to do a podcast, and now this is what happens, right? He starts insulting me. Fine. Okay, now I'm going to charge you per hour. Okay, Louise Hay. That's probably what was about about 24, 25 years ago, I came across that book.
Wow.
And I think from memory, she had some unspeakable atrocities that happened to her, and she used affirmations to change her life. And essentially, she was saying that if you can re-script your thinking, you can change your whole world. And then she had changed so many people's lives. And I thought, you know what, at this point, I was an epically failed accountant. I was living with my parents, and I didn't even know what I wanted to do in my life. Although I just learned that I wanted to become an international speaker. I mean, who wants to listen to an epically failed guy who's got no confidence, right, and is jobless? So at that point, trying to say I'm a well-known international motivational speaker was a joke.
Yeah.
And it was a complete lie.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I remember very clearly, and this was a moment where I thought, if I do this, if I really give affirmations a go, and it doesn't work, because it seems to be working for everyone that does it, then I will outwardly say all of this is rubbish. It doesn't work. It's useless. Yeah. And I got to tell you, Paresh, after a year, you know what happened? Nothing. Right? Wow. Nothing happened. Now I'm going to tell you, when you're diligently doing something, now I can't admit that I did it every single day diligently, but I did it pretty diligently. Okay. Nothing happened. And it was really bad. I mean, it's really demotivating and demoralizing when you really give it a go, like, with true intention, and nothing happens. But within about 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden I sort of eased off on them. And then funnily, all those things that I was saying were happening. I didn't even realize it. It just happened very naturally. So I think they certainly do work. I think how long it takes, I'll use the example of pregnancy. You can't, a woman can't fall pregnant and then 4 weeks later say, hey, my tummy, nothing's showing. There's no baby in there. Forget it. That's ridiculous. Yeah. There's an incubatory period. And for a woman, we know that's about 9 months. and then the baby will be, full term, and then, the baby will be born and ready to be born. In the same way, everyone has a different incubatory period, depending on how severe their self-esteem or self-image is, negative it is, what issues or trauma they may have had in their life, what their level of confidence is, what their track record of achieving things that they've never achieved before, or achieving goals that they've never achieved before, what their track record is. All these things will have an impact on how long it takes for them to actually, for that affirmation to manifest itself. Yeah. So that's really important. The other thing I would say is also that you shouldn't just do things for like end result type affirmations. I think it's more important to do affirmations around who you're becoming or what you want to be as a person. I think that's critically important. And I think if you do that, that'll make a difference. And there's also a way of setting affirmations as well, but I'm not sure if you want me to go into that detail, but yeah.
That's amazing that you did that for, you said nothing happened after the first year, and you sort of did it for 2 or 3 years until you saw the results of it. And I know, again, from personal experience and then stories that I've heard, that people start to beat themselves up if they have a goal to go to the gym, for example, 4 times a week. The first week they only make it, they may go 4 times a week for the first month. Then it might be 3 times a week, and then it drops down to 2 times a week, and people start to really beat themselves up about it. How did you have the
willpower
and the resilience to carry on? And how do people recalibrate once they sort of fall off? Because I think what happens with a lot of people is they'll start, then they'll miss a day, then it's like, oh, I've missed a day. Or for me, for example, I'll start a diet, then I'll have a biscuit here, and then I'll be like, I had 1 biscuit, I could have another one, and then by the end of it, I've eaten 3 cakes and 2 donuts. How do people?
You don't realize you're a policeman. Your very nature is a policeman, right?
What do you mean?
Donuts. Don't worry.
Right.
Wow.
So how do people recalibrate, and how did you have the willpower and resilience to carry on after not seeing results for a year?
I don't know if it's anything that special about me particularly. I think that I really knew this is what I wanted to do in my life. I knew deep down that somehow, some way, I was going to become an international speaker. I knew this, even though every sign was saying it's going to be impossible. It's going to be a very long, hard journey. No one's going to respect you in the beginning, and it's going to be hard. But deep down, I knew. Now, I probably thought it was going to be a long time before it happened. I probably thought maybe in my late 30s or early 40s, maybe then it might happen then or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I knew it. So I think that that helped. I think the second thing was that when you feel it's your life's purpose, like this is what you were born to do, you can't give up on that. And also, I was an epically fat accountant. So, I was listening to Jim Carrey just today, actually, and it was just brilliant. He said something on the lines of, he said what shaped him was his father was a great saxophone player and a really funny guy. But he gave that away to become an accountant because he had a family that he had to look after and a mortgage to pay off. And he goes, when he lost his job at 51, he said, what I learned about that, and then they were really, on the brink. He said, I learned that even when you're doing something that's not, that's practical, he said, you make excuses to do things that are practical, that are not who you are, you can even fail at that. So if you're going to do it, you might as well do something that you love. If you're going to fail, you might as well fail something you love as opposed to something you don't like and it's not right for you. So I think I'd failed at what I wasn't good at or what I wasn't meant to do. So I felt like I really only had one choice. So I think what I did was, and I think I really recommend this to all people, if you've got the sort of guts and the courage to keep going, but you've got to burn the bridge, man. You've got to burn the bridge and say, this is where I'm going, and come what may, rain, hail, or sunshine, I will make this happen. right? And you don't have a backup plan. And most people, if a parent was hearing this and they're thinking about their 18-year-old, 19-year-old son or daughter,
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, we're talking about no backup plan.
Yeah.
If you're asking me about what will help you achieve success, and if you want to really achieve your goals, you don't have a backup plan. Anyone that's really ever achieved anything amazing doesn't have a backup plan, because the backup plan will be plan B of achieving the goal in the first place. Backup meaning I'm going to go somewhere else if I can't do it. And when you're in a situation where you have to make it happen, you will find a way, because you have to. There's no choice. And then I had a wife then who I had a wife. It's still present tense, right? But we just had kids and all sorts of stuff. So it was like, and she was at home, and so I was only single income earner in the house. I had to make it happen. So I think if it's your life's purpose, if it's a coin to your nature, you burn the bridge and say, and be single-minded, then I think the willingness and the courage and all that will be there, because you sort of have to.
Yeah, and that's all. And that's incredible. Your story, and I know that's for your life's mission, right? But what about when people who set goals to lose weight, for example, or to read more? How do you recalibrate for those sorts of goals?
So why do you want to lose weight? Right now, if you want to lose weight and the reason is just because you want to look good, and it's just basically very superficial, then it's going to be harder. But for me, for example, if you look at my body type is very much like my mother's side of the family. And if you see my uncles, we're all over 6 foot, just over 6 foot, and they're all 90, 100 kilos. Okay. They're big boys. Right. And so if I just ate how I, just normally without thinking and not being disciplined, I would be 100 kilos today. Now, right now, I'm at my 26, 27-year-old weight.
Wow.
Right. And the reason why I want to look trim is because if I'm up on the stage and I'm talking about being your very best and personal growth and achieving your goals, etc., and I'm looking like a guy, if I'm majorly overweight and all the rest of it, then that's a sign of being not disciplined, and all the rest of it. So there's another reason why, a stronger, more powerful reason why, and I want to be proud of the product. So that's why I have a bigger, deeper reason, which is in line with my life purpose, right?
Yeah.
Right. Then you're more likely to succeed. But if it's just a typical, like, for example, if it's, it would be great if I could, have muscles and all. I'm not a muscly guy. And I think it would be nice to have muscles. I'm not, obsessed by it. But if I sort of go to, go to the gym and do, I'm not going to do it. I can tell you, I'll fail very, very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think everything that you've said so far keeps coming back to this one idea, and it's the idea of identification. You call it being in line with your nature. And that sounds so important for all of this. How important is it? How do people really become in line or set their goals to in line with their nature? Because a lot of people don't really know that.
They don't. And again,
and is it that important to be able to achieve a goal?
No, I mean, a goal or a small goal. I mean, you probably don't need to have, be in line with your nature to say, I'm going to read 10 pages of a book or something like that,
But is it easier to do? Is it easier to do when you are in line with your nature?
Very much so, because it's not just motivation, it's like inspiration. This is what I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
Okay. So then if reading a book or reading these books will improve my knowledge so that I can become a more effective speaker, for example, then I'm going to read that book.
Yeah.
Right. And Netflix won't be such a draw for me, because there's a major reason why I want to do it. Yeah. But for big goals, and I think we're talking about more substantial type goals here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Then it's an absolute game changer. It has to be in line with your nature, has to be in line with your higher purpose. So the real question then is not what's my goal, but who am I, and making that your life's purpose. I mean, Socrates said, know thyself. An unexamined life is not worth living.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that again, it's so important. Know thyself. An unexamined life is not worth living. And that's pretty powerful.
Very powerful.
I mean, let's face it, we're in this world and we don't even ask ourselves, who am I? I mean, if I said jump on your head, go start jumping on your head now. The first question you'd ask is why? Why do you want me to jump, mate? And if I give you a good enough reason, you might start jumping on your head.
Yeah.
Right? But we're living our life. I'm living my life. And I'm not asking myself the question, why am I here? So who am I and why am I here should be a burning thing in every person's life. Because if they don't know who they are, they don't know their strengths, their talents, their passions, their nature, right? Then how on earth are they going to live a fulfilled life? What goals will they be pursuing? They'll pursue the goals that other people tell them to do. You look outside and you go, oh, success, happiness, fulfillment is driving some sort of, convertible car and having this amazing house and having a beautiful partner with, 2 kids and a dog, whatever it might be. And that image or idea in your mind is what you think success is. So you start pursuing it.
Yep.
But you're copying another person's idea of what success is. What is it for you? Right? This is critically important. It doesn't matter what anyone else defines it as.
It's a recipe for inner conflict.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It is 100% a recipe for inner conflict because my conditioning is telling me one thing and my nature is saying another thing.
And you're fighting against yourself.
If you're in conflict, that means for sure you know that what you are doing is not right.
Yeah.
You have conflict. So then if there's conflict, it's probably the opposite. Or maybe not the opposite, but you're not doing the right thing. You should be doing something else because when you're in line, it flows, it comes easy. Guess what? Your strengths are in line with your nature. That's the way God made it. God doesn't go, hey, let me make this guy have a desire to his life's purpose to be a speaker and he can't even string 2 words together. It's going to be part of who I am. It's, the software will come with the hardware. That's the deal, right? It'll come easily to you when you put in the effort into it. You'll gain mastery much faster than anybody else. You'll enjoy the process. You'll love it. You'll feel energized. Like I'm talking to you right now. I'm energized because I'm loving talking about what I'm talking about. Now, I can't think of a better thing to do in my life than be talking to you right now about this stuff.
Yeah. So you talked about your true nature and being in line. How do people really discover their true nature?
I heard one person say that there's this whispering, like a soft whispering, like an inner voice that's saying, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. I think you just naturally, if it's natural, like breathing, you don't say, hold on, how do I breathe? Inhale, exhale. It just happens, right?
Yeah.
And so what I think is it escapes a lot of people because it happens so naturally, right? Like, when I was a young guy, that was your chance to say you're still young. Okay, fine. When I was a young guy.
Too easy.
Right, yeah. Wow. Like tag team the guy, give him the chance to try to get repair, your damage you did from before, but no, has no remorse. Okay. So basically when I was like a teenager, if you'd said to me, oh wow, Darren, you're a great communicator, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I just said I have a big mouth. And actually that big mouth gets me in trouble a lot of the time. So I actually saw my greatest gift as my biggest downfall, right? As my biggest weakness. Okay. And then I used to give advice, and all the advice I gave was absolute rubbish advice, right? So, I never would have thought that, I would do this sort of work, right? But the truth is I always kept talking and I always gave my opinion and I always wanted to, help people with their problems, but I didn't even realize it. But now when I look back on it, when I was, ringing out my mates, I'd be there almost counseling them about their problems, right? So it was happening without me even realizing it.
Yeah.
So everybody's doing it. And if you're not doing that, you will be such a mess of a person. Like you will be so broken and so shattered in so many ways if you are not living according to your nature. So maybe you're in an environment that's so toxic that any expression of your natural self is looked down upon, is disrespected, is not valued. That is really, really a toxic place. But most of the time as soon as you get out of that environment, let's say it's a workplace, then you move into your, home environment or whatever it might be, you'll start doing it. I'll start talking. I'll start ringing up a mate and trying to create a problem so I can solve it. That's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So you just got to be a little bit aware. Oh, my mind gravitates towards this. I keep doing this over and over and over again. So if you think about what comes to you naturally, what comes to you easily, that can be a big thing that escapes you because you don't really appreciate things that come naturally and easily because they don't leave an impression in your mind. There's no agitation in your mind when it happens. It's just so natural. To become aware of it, ask other people, hey, what do you think I'm good at? So that you can ask them what their strengths are. Ask people to tell you what your strengths are. And you're like, oh my gosh. Like, a guy said to me just, a colleague of mine in the UK, he said to me, Darren, before you leave, I was just recalibrating actually. And he says, I'm not trying to blow steam up your backside, but he said, listen, there's one thing that you do that is, in my opinion, you are the best in the world. Nobody has ever come close to this ever. And he's like, deals with a lot of high profile people. He says, your ability to diagnose a problem and get to the root of an issue, that's with the speed you do it. I have never met anyone in my life do that. And this was like, he told me this 2-3 weeks ago.
Wow.
I think I sort of knew it, and I'm 47, but when he articulated that to me, it was like, damn. And then I thought, I really need to do executive coaching. Yeah. And I actually called it impact coaching, right? Because I can get in there, I can understand it, I can get in real fast, and I can make an impact really, really quickly. That's not for most people. Most people need a long journey, slow burn, etc. I'm a direct, almost confrontational person, not because I'm trying to create confrontation, but because I just see the issue and I can get right into it really fast.
Yeah.
So asking people, what are my strengths? What do you see is my nature? What do I do naturally? Asking people who know you well, that would be really good. And if they're able to articulate it really well, that would be fantastic. The other thing is become aware. I said to you before of what you just naturally tend to do. That could be difficult. Or valuing what you do naturally or easily. That can be hard because like big deal. I can speak, big deal. Hello, it's earning my income today, right? It is a big deal, right? So valuing your strengths. Another thing would be like, what is your desire? Like your true desire, not those just superficial desires, but what's your true desire? Like, how do you want to help or how do you want to serve other people? That can be a really good sign. Or in what specific way do I want to help or serve, right? Because you and I might have the same goal, which might be to inspire people, but one might be through doing something like working in a like the World Vision or something like that, and that might inspire people, but and through your actions. But mine will be through my words. Yeah, same goal, but different ways of doing things, different strengths which will allow you to do it. So if you say, I want to do it in this particular way, that's also a sign, right? Then another thing would be to pick up on what energizes you. That's the best. When you start getting excited and getting energized and start to pick up, the eyes light up, that's definitely a sign, right? So I think, and it shouldn't be based on if other people praise me, then I get excited, right? Just because if you do something pretty good and then people praise you, oh yeah, that's it. It energizes me. You're getting energized by the praise. The very thing itself should energize you. You don't need another person to say, wow, you're amazing. That's wonderful. It just, the very act itself energizes you, gets you excited, G's you up. That would be a really good sign too.
Regardless of the result?
Regardless of the result. See, this is the thing, right? This drives me insane. Just using your logic, how the hell can you fail in the long term? How the hell can you fail if you're doing something that you absolutely love, that comes to you naturally, that you put in a lot of work into? It's just an impossibility, right? All it is your thinking, your wrong notions, your wrong thinking about people won't value me. People won't like this. What if people judge me for this? It's just external stuff
Yeah.
that you're allowing to cause a hate, but it's impossible.
Mm.
And if you really want to make sure that, yes, I can monetize, that's another thing. Oh, I can do it as a hobby, no problem. But to monetize it, hey, just find a problem in the world. I'm going to tell you something, right? Nothing, if you are alive, then there's a reason. If you're alive, there's a reason. Everything that does not have a purpose or a reason will die off.
Yeah.
Okay. It won't survive in this world. Okay. So if you're alive, you have a reason. Okay. And so therefore, if you have that reason, there's a why to what you're doing, then of course, when you couple it with your strength, so the reason is so that reason could be it's solving some sort of problem in the world. Yeah. So I have a reason to solve, help people get clear about who they are, right? Help them understand their nature, right? That's why I am here. That's why I'm put on this earth.
Yeah.
Right. That's my reason.
Yeah.
Do you think people know who they are? That's a problem. So now I use my strength to solve a problem, guaranteed money. Right. Now, if you value what you're doing, if you don't value what you're doing, you say, oh, well, you know what? Some people have these wrong notions again. Oh, why should I charge for this? This is, I find this easy to do and I'll do it anyway. It won't make any difference. Yeah, no problem. If you want to, and you can, you're in a position to be able to do it voluntarily and you don't need to get paid for it, fine. But if you want to monetize it, of course you can. I'm just telling you now, you'll find it very, very hard to achieve your goals. You'll be a very miserable person if you don't live in line with your nature, right? How important is that for a person?
Extremely.
Extreme. Their whole life, their happiness, their fulfillment, their success, all of that, their colleagues, who they'll impact, the partners they'll attract into their life, their own kids. What a huge domino impact that will have on everyone when that person gets clear about their future, because they'll inspire other people just by being who they are.
Absolutely. Wow. We've taken a little bit of a sideward step, but I really, really love it. And I want to go into one point a little bit more deeper. I think things like asking other people what your talents are is easy to do. What energizes you is easy to realize as well. But there's one thing that you said in there, which I think is a little bit harder for most people. In the last episode with Aka, she talked about self-reflection, and you talked about awareness. How do people, through self-reflection, become more aware? And then I want to get back on topic. I just want to go into this point.
A lot of people don't want to reflect because it's difficult. Reflection it's metacognition. It's thinking about your thinking.
Yeah.
Right? Most people are very lazy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
lazy
hard.
or scared.
Both. Okay. So I'll tell you, it's very easy to see somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see another person's nature. Very easy to see another person's strength. But yourself, I don't know what it is, but you always find it hard. Right? You find it hard to look upon, to introspect, to reflect on self.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of attachment, there's a lot of notions, a lot of ideas, a lot of limiting beliefs that are caught up in the head. So to try and siphon through that by yourself can be difficult. So that's why I always recommend you should have a coach, you should have a mentor. You need someone on the outside because they can see it more clearly than you. But your ability to reflect and think, I think, is impacted by, one, creating some space for you to do that. We're just very busy, so we don't do it.
Yeah.
Two, putting the importance on it, that when you do it, my gosh, you can get these bombs that come off like, wow, oh my God, like, I can really get to the root of a cause really fast. It just shakes you up. It's like, this is really important. And so I think it's very important to do that. And then, in part of your reflection, if you say, well, going through the day, what did I do today that energized me, for example? That was when I really got excited. Or this stuff I didn't like, this stuff I didn't like. Just by going back on the day, so many things will be revealed to you. And if you do it over a period of days or a period of weeks, you'll start to see what I call patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you pick up patterns, you'll say, it's not just this thing. It's not just talking that I like. Like I won't just, if you put me in a social setting, and you're just talking about the rugby because you're in New Zealand and you don't play AFL football or whatever it is, whatever you decide, rugby or just some, the weather or, coronavirus, whatever it might be, the topic of the day, I can talk about it for a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted me to, I could talk a lot about it really, but I've no interest.
Yeah.
I'll go quiet. So talking just for the sake of talking, no. It's talking where it's solving a person's problem. It's helping them gain insight. That's when I'm getting really excited and energized. So then by writing this down regularly and reflecting, and I actually think reflection should be written, not just in your head. Written, the patterns will start to become clear.
Mm.
It was every single time when I was solving a person's problem, that's when I got juiced.
Yeah.
That's when I got excited. And then that self-reflection will then help you to gain awareness, raise your awareness, and then it's about then living in alignment with that. And why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you. So coming back to goal setting, what is your relationship with setting habits, or what do you think about setting habits versus goal setting? Are they the same or are they different? What is the relationship between the two?
Well, I think you need to have a goal to set a habit, right? So you're not just going to go, well, just habit. You say, oh, I have a goal to make this a habit in my life. Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you something about this. Very few people set themselves out to create a habit. Very few. It's hard, right? It is hard. This is what the research tells us. A habit, I'm talking about a relatively basic habit, can take anywhere between 18 days and 256 days.
Wow.
That's a big, so the more basic and simple, the less amount of time.
Yeah.
So habits can take between 18 and 256 days.
Wow.
If you, I don't know how many months 256 days is, but it's probably about 9 months or something. I'm thinking maybe 8 months or something. That's a long time.
Yeah.
3 times 8, 3 times 9. Yeah.
Is this why you failed as an accountant?
Yeah. About 9 months, I think it is, right? 3
Yeah.
9s are 27. 20, yeah. Roughly 8.5, whatever months. That's a long time.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
but most habits, neuroscientists will tell us will tell you there's it's 66 days, okay, which is broken up into 3 cycles of 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
So 21 days straight, you can have like a 1 day break, then another 21 days, a 1 day break, another 21 days, and that's roughly 66 days. Okay. If you miss a day, you skip a day, don't worry, you don't have to start all over again. You add 3 days to it. Okay. Now I decided to do this over over lockdown 1 and lockdown 2 here in Melbourne. I think we're the most lockdown city in the world. Okay. So firstly, I gotta tell you something. I was the only guy I knew in my friendship group, and most people I knew, that actually lost weight during lockdown.
Wow.
Okay. So that's saying something, right? But here we go. I decided to set 3 habits. Okay. So first one was doing meditation daily. Second one was doing mindfulness / health type breathing called pranayama,
Mm-hmm.
right? Third one was to do either or, to do yoga or walk for roughly half an hour to 45 minutes. Okay, one or the other.
Yeah.
And I wish I brought for you. I actually got the what's called a habit formation tracker. And it has 21 days on there. And you can write down, and it has like all these lines, like a spreadsheet. And then I had, all the things I wanted to do. And then every day I did, I ticked it. And when the 21 days was up, then I'd have a little dash afterwards so I can have a day break and then continue on. And then if I missed a day, I put a cross there, and then I'd add 3 at the end, like to add 3 more days to it. And I did it, right? I'm going to tell you something very interesting. The meditation and the mindfulness stuff, the breathing, stuck. Arguably easier than
Yeah.
doing, but also harder because meditation is harder, right? But actually, the yoga and the walking, I think it was mainly time-based, but also I still find it a grind. Not the walking I find easy. That's the time issue. But yoga, I feel like it's a grind. And I just know it's so good for me. And it really helps me and it loosens up my back and all the rest of it. But that one, I'm not doing every day. Probably end up doing two or three times a week, which
Right.
is actually enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Darren, there's so much that I want to unpack with you. But like I said, I want to do a lot of it in person. So whenever we get out of this COVID situation, you are able to travel, be ready for a marathon of a session in person because there's so much that I want to unpack with you. You're just an incredible individual. The last thing before we wrap up, I want to ask is how important is faith and just belief in the goal or in the identification or in the person that you're wanting to become. How important is that to achieving your goal? And I think I know the answer, but I just want you to unpack that for us.
I mean, I think faith is critical. At the end of the day, if you don't believe deep down, not this superficial belief like, oh yeah, I can do it, outward, deep down, subconsciously. Remember I told you I knew that I'd become a speaker, right?
Yeah.
Somehow deep down, even though all signs were showing that it wasn't going to happen,
Yeah.
right? I just deep down knew it would happen. So I think that internal confidence, they call it in education, self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to achieve a goal. If that self-efficacy is not there, that's true self-belief is not there, it'll undo everything because that belief, that true belief sits in the subconscious mind. That's where your self-image sits, where your identity, your identification, what you really believe about who you are sits in there. So if deep down there, you're saying, I can't do it, deep down, right? Doesn't matter what you're saying outside.
Yeah.
It's going to really sabotage your success. Yeah. So belief is critical. Sorry, belief and faith that you can do it. And I think if you have faith, not only in yourself, but if someone else believes in you, right, that is game changer. Someone who you respect, you adore, you love, you venerate, you revere. If a person like that believes in you, oh man, that is a complete game changer. Because when they believe in your unexpressed potential, I call it positive expectancy, something about that, because they're so important in your life, they're a significant other in your life, it can almost undo all the rubbish thinking that you might have in your own head. You say, well, if he or she thinks that I can do it, and I think of this person up here, right, then maybe I can. Maybe I can. And I've been very lucky. I've had spiritual teachers. I've had my wife. I've had my father-in-law. I've had, in a different way, my mum and my dad, not sort of outwardly, but they always used to boast about how proud they were of me and stuff like that, right? So there was always a lot of people who were believing in my ability. I'm grateful for that. Very, very grateful for that. Because if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for my wife, I don't think I'd be here today. If it wasn't for my teacher and guru, I don't think I'd be here today. I don't think I would have gone to business if it wasn't for my father-in-law. These people just, and it was not like, oh, you're the best, you can do it. It's just like, yeah, I cannot believe that you don't think you can do this. Like, I don't want to have this discussion anymore. It was just a done deal. You have all the qualities to do it. Do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the time, even though it felt great at the time, I was still scared. I still had doubt, but that was like the impetus, that the wave that helped me gain some momentum towards making it happen. So, yeah. And if you have faith in a higher, idea of God or universe, whatever it might be, that has your back, that loves you, right? That if you've got faith in the higher, someone else believing or having faith in you, and belief in yourself, well, that combination is pow. That's a six. Sure, no question about it.
Yeah. Well, someone being someone who dealt with a lot of self-doubt and all of that, I can say without a doubt, having you in my life, and you've been exactly that. There's a lot of times where I haven't had that belief in myself, and I think by now how much I respect and revere you, and you've always had that faith and belief in me, and it's been incredible. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Um,
It's easy to believe in someone that you think is good. It wasn't hard.
Does that work for something that you deep down believe is not going to be possible? And the reason I asked that, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. The reason I asked that is because there's a neuroscientist, an Israeli neuroscientist, who discovered a new way to scan your brain where he thought you could record dreams, right? And that's crazy. That's a crazy thought in and of itself. The fact that he thought he could record dreams. Now, once he said that, he sort of thought about it. He didn't really think it was possible. And he got a phone call one time late at night. He was half asleep, and the journalist asked him, "Do you really believe that we can record dreams?" And in his sleepy state, he said, "Yeah, I believe we can record dreams." And then the next morning, the headlines were, "Neuroscientist says we can record dreams." And he was so scared of being an outcast, people thinking he's a quack, people thinking he's crazy, because he didn't think it was actually possible. It was just something that he was in the process of working on. He wrote papers about it and all of that. And he spent the next year or so trying to retract everything that he said about that. And then a year after that, a Japanese person came out and wrote a paper about how they were able to do it. And so they were able to record a dream. And this guy called up, the Israeli neuroscientist called up the Japanese guys and said, "How is this possible? What are you talking about?" And he said to him, "I didn't know that it wasn't possible, but because you said it was possible, I just assumed that anyone could do it." And the Japanese people were able to do it. And he says the lesson he took from it was that he said, "Don't say it's possible if you think it's not possible, but don't say it's impossible if you haven't discovered that it's not possible."
Mm.
So the question is, does that work? Does that faith work for something that you inherently think is not possible? If you took a leap of faith, will you still achieve that goal?
I can't talk from experience about this, right? Because I told you deep down, I did believe it.
Yeah.
So I think, is it possible? The answer is yes. Let me put it simply. Sitting over here on one side of the shore, there's a river in between. One bank is what we call I can.
Mm-hmm.
I can is full of potential, full of possibility. I can, full of belief. To get from I can, to get from potential to realization or performance, you just swim across that river. And on the other side, right, is the result, right, is the manifestation of that. To get across the river, willingness is required. I can, no problem. We've got unlimited potential, people say. But I will, that's a different story altogether.
Mm.
Why? And I always say, if you can, then why wouldn't you do it? But if you're saying, hold on, is it possible? Answer is yes, if you're willing. But if it's possible and it's not in line with your nature and not in line with your values, and it's a big goal, it's very unlikely to happen. If it's possible, but you don't deep down believe it, like truly don't believe it, you will sabotage it. Does that mean it can't be done? No, it doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means you're sabotaging it because your idea of yourself is so small. If it is that it is in line with your nature and it is a worthwhile goal, but you're not there yet, then that self-effort combined with faith and all the rest of it will then help you get across the river to the other side. So, I mean, I've not really ever been asked that question before. So I think it's, I suppose, without being ridiculous, everything is possible, but is it possible for you?
Yeah.
Right. I think it depends a lot on your nature and you know, and your subconscious beliefs about yourself.
Right. Excellent. Thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for taking your time out to be here with me.
Anytime.
And again, like I said, be ready for a marathon when you're here in Auckland next.
What was this, a sprint or what was it? Because
this was meant to be a sprint.
Well, I talk too much. That's what it is.
It's meant to be a sprint, but it turned into a half marathon.
Half marathon. Okay.
Yeah, so again, thank you so much. Yeah, I guess the last thing is, where can people find you? Where can people engage with your work? You talked about the habit formation tracker. Is that available on your website? And where can people find that?
Yeah, it is. If you need to get in contact, my website is successintegrated.com. So you can find me there, or you can email me directly, info@successintegrated.com. That will get me as well. Still not great on the socials, probably because yeah, I look as old as you, so that's probably why I'm not as good at the social side things. Look, you can get me on things like Facebook, Insta, etc. But man, my Insta page is something like D-Dogalicious or something. It's ridiculous. And I don't know what it is. I don't even know. No, I think there's some other one, Success Int or something like that. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, we'll find it and I'll link it down below.
You can let me know. But email or website inquiry is probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
And if you contact me directly, I'm happy to send you the habit formation tracker, which you can then print off. And I recommend sticking it up on your bathroom wall. So before the end of the day goes, you can go, hey, do I tick it? Do I need to do that? And then tick it off and then go to bed. And it's always there because you go there at least twice a day. So you can check it and make sure you're on path.
Cool. Again, one more time, thank you so much, Darren. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. All the best. Take care. Bye, everyone.